Ken Carson is a trap artist who is affiliated with Mr. Playboy Carti himself, who I've been known to be a fan of over the years. And it clearly has some kind of knock-on effect where they seem to influence one another, but it seems as though one gets a lot of praise, the other seems to get a lot of hate, and Ken Carson happens to be the man who gets a lot of hate, more so than your average trap artist, it seems. Although the genre has taken some time, it's took some doing to get people on board with it, and there are still plenty of haters for all kinds of artists in this genre. But yeah, you do get the odd one that just seems to get piled on more hate than anyone else, seemingly. I guess for understandable reasons, it's not really a genre that seems to be appealing to people, but I guess if you've hit this point and you've got this far in and you've tried all these trap albums and you still ain't clicking with half of it, or even at least, you know, some of it, then it's probably not going to be for you. So it may just be that someone like Ken Carson was never going to appeal to you anyway. So it's a bit of a tiring slog to get through all of these albums if you basically by the end of it you're just not going to be a fan of anyway. So probably jump off the train now, because while I totally understand the hate for Mr. Ken Carson here, at the end of the day I think most of this genre is mindless fun, and more so than anyone else, Ken Carson, you're not going to get anything else than just mindless fun. I think that is just the appeal from there, and if you can't get that, then yeah, you're not going to be a fan, obviously. But I think there are other artists within the genre that really take a bit more of a meticulated approach to how they make, you know, such intoxicating and addictive vibes through their music. I felt the same about the last Pierre Bourne album, which was one of my favorites of last year. I felt the same about most of Lucky's music, which has been fantastic for a few years now. So there's layers in this genre, and then there's Ken Carson, bit of mindless fun. Now, I will admit that the first 4-5 tracks are a bit rough. I feel like it takes some time to kick in, which is quite rare for an album like this, because usually you're just straight in there and you know what you're getting. But the opening track on intro, Ken's voice is gargly and he sounds like he's singing underwater, and I can't quite describe or explain why it sounds like that, but it might be to do with the vocal mixing. I mean, the mixing in general on this album isn't the best, but I feel like the kind of blurted out, like bassy boom boom like trap drums that come through at times actually kind of give the album a cool effect. But on the first few tracks there's just a bit of an ugliness to it that I feel like he didn't quite finish off some of the ideas. They just sound a bit demo-ish, honestly. I quite like Gems, mostly for his flow, but yeah, I thought really that these tracks could have just been thrown to the side. Go is a bit better, but it reminds me a lot of Cochise, and I do like Cochise as well, but the repetitive like hook just gets a bit boring. So for me, once you get past these, MDMA is where the album starts. That is the starting track for me. If I were to go back to this again, I'd probably start there and just call it the 15 track album, or however many so tracks it is from that point, because this track just has so much buoyancy to it. The instrumental just feels like it's got more character to it, and it just has a lively energy that I enjoy more coming through from Ken. He just amps up his voice a little bit more. He sounds more confident. I mean, he couldn't sound any less confident on Bloody South Beach, where he's literally bragging about how he's got all this swag and everyone wants to copy him. And yeah, sure, it's really generic stuff that you hear in most rap music, but just that confidence gives the tracks a bit more personality that I think works. You've got PDBMH and Money Hunt, which are back-to-back tracks that have fantastic instrumentals in my opinion, which remind me so much of, like, you know, 8-bit old video games. I really like these two tracks for that reason. I mean, the Money Hunt particularly sounds like, you know, it's got a bit of like a Crash Bandicoot melody going on as well, which is quite strange. Reminds me of that Z Loopers track from their last album. That was such a good track. Obviously not quite on the level as that Z Loopers track though, because that song is insane and ridiculous. But at least that kind of reminiscent feeling of those old video games comes through, and I really enjoy that. Pretty typical for this style of music though. I mean, there aren't, you know, there isn't a shortage of you know, trap music that sounds like old video games. There's a lot of influence that comes through a lot of artists for that style and that era. So as much as I am enjoying these tracks, I can understand that Ken Carson actually is pretty derivative within the genre itself. He doesn't have the most unique ideas in the world. I mean, Fuck 12 being one of the best examples of that. He sounds gruffer on this track. His delivery is way different to some of the other ones, but the Fuck 12, Fuck 12, Fuck 12 refrain gets so old. And, well, how many times have you heard that before in a rap song, hey? Hey? Hey. What he does have though is some of the most unique and batshit lyrics I've heard all year on the track X, which is very fun and very stupid. And he says things like, my bitch dressed just like a nun, my money weigh a ton. Like, these two things do not link at all, but he manages to turn it into a rhyme, and it's just so funny. No Family Guy, I treat all my hoes like Meg. I mean, that's a bar there, man. That's a bar. That's a bar. There's a lot of drive to this beat as well. And similarly with Same Thing, where he says, I ain't trying to fuck no more, I just want some sloppy. There's an erratic energy to his delivery, almost like ADHD levels of just like just so all over the place and just absolutely insane to listen to. Get Rich or Die later on the album is a good one too for me. I think it reminds me a little bit of like Playboi Carti, in the sense that, you know, the ad-libs really come through quite abrasively, which is always a fun thing. And yeah, I mean, in terms of like Playboi Carti references or Playboi Carti links or comparisons, I don't really feel like there's a whole lot more to be made. I mean, sure, they're affiliated, sure, they will influence one another, but I think Ken Carson has a bit of a way to go to even reach some of the levels Carti has in the past. Not an attack on Ken Carson, but more of just an ushering towards what you could become if you just maybe try and deliver something more unique in this style of music, because it's pretty oversaturated at the moment. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Ken Carson is giving us the most unique trap album of the year, because it's very far from that. I mean, Murder Music as well, those lyrics about forcing the girl or the bitch to get an abortion, I just think those lines are really, really in poor taste. I mean, it's not even to do with whether you have strong opinions on abortion itself, but I think the idea of putting yourself in a position where you're bragging about forcing someone to get an abortion. I mean, again, your opinion on abortion is irrelevant. I think if you're forcing someone to do that, I mean, I don't think there's very good morals involved there, is there? I mean, come on, that you just don't need to be saying that shit. But aside from that, and aside from the first few tracks at the beginning, which I would probably leave behind, 20 tracks, I'd say it mostly hits for what it's going for. It's mindless, dumb, numb trap music that I think there's a place for. And while I won't be returning to this anytime soon, honestly, I think it's okay. I think it's all right. I just wanted to kind of highlight, you know, there are aspects of this album that are good, and it does work for the most part. He's just a bit far away from making something unique. I mean, I mentioned Cochise earlier in this review, and I did talk about Cochise a little bit ago on this channel as well, and said, like, look, he's starting to sound a bit derivative on this album. And there's parallels between both the recent album from Cochise and this album from Ken Carson. They're both pretty derivative, but for what they are, they're working for the most part. 6 out of 10 from me. I think it's all right. I'm not going to be, you know, dying on a hill defending this album, but for the most part, I think it's pretty good. It's bouncy, it's fun, it's a bit chaotic as well. It's got that chaos energy to it. But yeah, look, if you're not a fan of this style of music, you're going to be throwing this by the wayside within a second. But if you like this kind of music, I think there's a place for it, and it's all right. This is okay. It's not the best of its kind, but I don't think it's the worst of its kind either. I think it's okay. Thank you for watching this review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do tell me what you think. If you agree with me, disagree with me, why? Have a good day. Tell me what I should review next as well. We've got a bit of a slow period for music at the moment, so if you're finding gems that I'm not touching on, please send them my way. You know I love the gems. Thank you as always. Have a good day and goodbye.